Hey there, it's me, Guddeful again, and you are watching I think the 12th episode of Adventureplains. And yes, as you can see right now in this episode, I thought it is time for another coaster again. Because I was getting bored with all this scenery and detailing stuff without something that gets the bigger picture of the park done. And yeah, so I thought, let's add this Singlerail coaster I had in mind for quite some time as of it right now. And yeah, we are starting this one right now. I really got inspired by this, by the teaser of Six Flags that they are building the Wonder Woman Singlerail, and I really like the layout. So I kind of try to lean my layout onto the Wonder Woman one, but not too hard. So it's not that compact as Wonder Woman, and it has a little bit of its own for it. The idea for the story is that this one is the newest addition to the park. So this one happened maybe this year or even next year in the story of the park, and was added after this whole Copenhagen town area existed for like probably 10 or 20 years. Yeah, so I will build the whole layout with the 4-meter technique. That makes coasters really smooth if you do it right. Sometimes it's hard to get some transitions right, and it's not perfect in this layout, I know that, but it's good enough for me. So I didn't want to bother too long with building the coaster and building the layout. In the end, I was quite happy. Before smoothing, it really looks really bad, and that's not just because it is unsmooth. It looks a little bit weird, I thought. But that is something that actually happens with a lot of naked coasters, I would say. So if you don't have the scenery and the foliage around them, they always look kind of weird. And even if the scenery is just a slab of concrete beneath them and a little bit of fencing around. So after I added that and after I smoothed it, that helped a lot actually for the whole coaster. And what really surprises me is that in the end, this one, even after smoothing, does keep all its ratings in green. So we have green excitement, green nausea, and green fear. So that's something I never had with coasters that are somewhat realistic. So that either means this one works better or it isn't realistic. What's not entirely impossible, to be honest, because I have no idea how the Gs on those would work. There is one turn that has very high G forces, too high to be exact, but it doesn't look like those are right, if you know what I mean. Sometimes I find it hard to trust Planet Coaster with stuff like speed, friction, and G forces. So I kind of went with it even if the Gs were too high on this one. It's not like with the looping coaster where I probably have to rebuild the first drop because the people are getting into the first loop with I think 6 vertical Gs. That's a little bit too much. But here I think it was like 4.5 or something for this turn I'm talking about, and that's tolerable for me. So yeah, as you can see, you get the bigger idea of the layout. I actually forgot to leave space for the transfer track again, but this time I have enough space so I can fit it in, so that won't be a problem. Yeah, so what I actually will do is when I have done the layout in a few seconds, I won't show you the whole smoothing process because it is majorly boring to watch that. If people of you aren't familiar with the 4-meter smoothing technique I'm using here, I will simply tell you now what is going to happen. Now I finish the whole layout, and what happens between now and this shot here is that I smooth 4 pieces at once, move 1 piece ahead, smooth them again with always only 1 click, and do that forth and then back, and that 4 times. So you smooth the coaster back and forth 8 times in a hole. This is the basic concept of this smoothing idea, but there are some tricky situations where you probably only will smooth forwards, or not 4 times, but maybe 3 times, or maybe 5 times. Maybe you will use 3 pieces at once, not 4, or maybe you will 5 at once, but the whole idea is always the same. And if you're interested in this thing, then first you should look up Silverred's video on how to build smooth coasters. I will link it in the description. It's a really great one, and you really see the power of this smoothing technique. And you should experiment for your own, and especially with every coaster, with each coaster itself, because they all work different. It's not like you can say the inverted coaster works the same as the RMC hybrid or as the RMC Singlerail I just built here. And yeah, so just experiment with this. Learning by doing is essentially the biggest thing in Planet Coaster for me. So if I see people saying stuff like, I can't build like that, I'm so amazed how you can do stuff and like that and so on and so on, and it don't really mean me, by the way. I mean comments on Silverred's videos or something like that. I don't actually think I'm that good. I always tell them to just try, because most people probably are that good or as good as they want to be without knowing it, because they are scared of not being as good. What is kind of weird, because we're in a game and no one expects of you to be as good as you want except from you. So just try it, and if you fail, try it again until you get the grip of things, you know? And that's what I've done, and I think I'm quite good. I'm not the best, but I think I can show off what I have to, what I've built. And yeah, what you just saw, by the way, was me trying to build Neature and Nature. Again, 2 terms brought in by Mike Sheets from the Bro Coaster Bros. What my idea was is that in the back of the park there's a forest, and the coaster was built before that. A little bit of the forest was taken away, and they wanted to replant something. So it just looks like they put the coaster into the nature, but all in front of the coaster should be a little bit smaller and not that high, so you actually can see the coaster and get some kind of skyline. And that is where the term Neature comes in. So what Mike says, Neature for him is this part of foliage in the park that tries to imitate nature, but is man-made, and you see that is man-made, and that is what I wanted to try here. So I built the whole forest with bushes and big trees in the back. I didn't actually put dead wood into there because I want to spare my frame rate. But that is something you normally would see too in those nature parts. And yeah, that is what I wanted to do there. And in front, then I wanted that the park planted the foliage like it was it has been there all the time, so it looks a little bit wild and not very not that man-made, but it is, and I think I got it quite right. But maybe you can tell me what you think about the foliage. I hope you see it enough actually with all this moving. I maybe should move on to show you some cinematics in the end of the videos. Random thoughts. Anyways, you just saw, by the way, me putting in the tunnel for the exit, where there will be a shop for the coaster. So with a lot of merchandise, t-shirts from the park and so on and so on. A lot of coasters have those these days, and this one will have it too. And this top spin here in front of the coaster was actually born because I liked the name combination of the 2 coasters. Because the coaster will be named, I think it's pronounced Jormungadir. That is the Midgard snake out of the Norse mythology. I don't know if I completely butchered the name, by the way. Just tell me if I did. And the top spin in front of it will be called Mjolnir. That is the hammer of Thor. Thor, I think it's in English, TH. I just like the idea, and I like the idea that there is something in front of the coaster, so this whole plaza is not just a coaster with some benches and stuff. And yeah, so we're doing a little bit more of foliage. Now I'm adding kind of a rocky area. And this is something I really discovered for myself in the recent time. To use more of the terrain tool instead of instead of the rocks from the scenery tab. You can spare your frame rate with it. It actually looks better, I think. And yeah, I really like that. The secret for me was to use smaller settings with higher intensity. That gives you a lot more control about how it looks in the end. It's not like you have this big round hill and that's it. You actually can add texture to your mountains and to your rockwork. And yeah, that's something I really like. Here the idea was that there was some kind of river before that had dried out or something. Maybe I will take the idea even further and take down the riverbank to the lake. Maybe I won't, we'll see about that. But it won't be an actual river, because for that I had to use a lot of those particle effects, and hell, they will break my frame rate, so that won't happen. Here now you can see me doing the Neature. I put a lot of low trees and bushes in there, so it kind of looks like saplings. It's not perfect, but I think it gets the job done. So I'm happy with it. And now we are getting to the first path cover for the queue cover. This one was actually not that easy to build because it was on a slight slope sideways. And that was intentionally, that wasn't by mistake, because Colossus in Heide Park, the big roller coaster, the big wooden coaster there, has this. It has a big part of the queue goes upwards but sideways, so you go back and forth, and in the end of one line where you turn around, you have stairs to the next level and go around like that. And I wanted to kind of have the same feeling here, but not as open as with Colossus. And in the end, it worked out really well. I'm really happy with it. It fits the whole idea of this area being more generic, being less themed and more efficient for the park, I'd say. So you have this big coaster that it still is part of a theme from the name, and it goes through the nature, so it isn't entirely ugly because it is just put there onto a slab of concrete and that's it. But there is not any theming going on actually, so the station won't be themed, this won't be themed. There will probably be 1 or 2 buildings in this area that are themed, but not that much. So this whole queue cover here really worked out well. It was a little bit fiddly to get everything how I wanted it, especially those slope things here. Oh, my knees are killing me right now, I don't know why. But I got it right in the end, I think. Sometimes you have to be a little bit tolerant with Planet Coaster for stuff like gaps in between some items, because Planet Coaster only lets you get so far with certain things. By the way, here you see me trying to put in misters, so the queue will stay cool all time of the year, even if we have summer and 40 degrees in the shadow or something like that. And this idea I actually got from Ruble Trillions. A lot of people reference here in this episode, actually. I will put this episode 2 in the description. This one was on Brocoaster. He was a guest on Brocoaster, and he built the station and the queue for Peregrine, the inverted one on No Name Landia. And there he used those misters. I didn't actually know before that those are common in theme parks, but it turns out they are. And I thought that would be a nice addition for this modern coaster here. So I put them in, and they look great, and I think I really like the function. And here you can see me trying to put in a slight slope to the rails of the Singlerail, so it looks like it isn't elevated, but that didn't really work out as I imagined, but it worked out quite fine. And by the way, that is where probably I should have put the transfer track, but right now I think I will put it above the exit path. I think that should work. I have to try around a little bit with that, but I think it is possible to get it in there. Yeah, and now we are starting to build the station building. The terrain here was kind of a pain, because for whatever reason Frontier thinks it is a good idea to block terrain editing beneath pathways that are already elevated. So I don't really get that, but you can only do so much near a path. You can see it right down there. There's a small hill, and I can't remove that because A, it's too close to the topspin, and it is too close to the station above. So that's why I have to build this little thing here right now, so it covers up the terrain that sticks out of the building, and that is something I really don't understand. I understand why we cannot raise the terrain to a certain level next to stuff like that, but why we can't lower it, that doesn't really make sense for me. But maybe there is a reason I don't understand. I don't know. My throat. Everything is trying to kill me today. That's so weird. Anyways, yes, now we are, or aren't we? Okay, now we are just scrolling around again, typical me. Now we're adding the walls on top, so the people won't fall off. This is kind of the fence of this area. And there is one very special thing coming with this station, what I really like, and you will see what it is. Maybe you saw a screenshot on Twitter already. If you didn't, because you don't follow me on Twitter, I really advise you to do so, because I put a lot of screenshots on there while building, so you get some small sneak peeks out of Adventureplains, what is happening, and probably other things too, if there are any other projects, but that would be ridiculous, me doing other projects than Adventureplains? No. And here I tried something, not really tried, I wanted to try something, and that again was the idea that Ruble Trillions used with his station for Peregrine to use windows as a roof, but I couldn't find the texture that worked for me, so I just did this thing again that I already did with the Singlerail, with the monorail transportation system. And it looks nice, it is as generic as I wanted it to be, and it is not too boring or too plain. It looks actually very, very interesting and detailed, even from afar. And the sight line when you walk out of the Copenhagen town area, oh, that's so beautiful. I love it. That really turned out great. And here's the cover for the people waiting to be seated on the coaster. And here I had to move a little bit with those wooden pillars. And yeah, the next thing I think after this one is that we are getting into the gardening of the queue area here, the very immediate queue area before you enter the coaster actually. There is a little bit of gardening to hide all those cornerstones. We cannot remove when the path is elevated, which again is not very nice. I don't know if there's any reason why we cannot do that. Maybe that doesn't work with the texture, I don't know. But if it would work, please give this possibility to us. Because to hide elevated queues or make your own floors and stuff like that, this is really, really hard. Because A, you either have the feet of the people sticking through the ground, or B, you have the cornerstones peeking out of your actual floor, and that never happens in a real theme park. So the option to turn those off on elevated would be really nice. But I think those are things that actually already are in the planning. No, I have to yawn. This episode is cursed. I don't know what's happening, but for some reason I was totally energized for the whole day, and now I start recording and somehow everything comes at once. My leg hurts, I'm tired. I don't know. Maybe karma. Maybe I did something wrong. I don't know. So I think we're done with this front area, and now just the fence here. I don't know if I will keep it. It's okay, but it looks weird, to be honest. So I don't know if I will keep it here or if I remove it again. I just wanted to have something there that kind of secured this area, but oh, there I have to cut a lot of stuff actually. No, there I will cut something out here. So from now on things will get a little bit delayed, I guess. Now let me just go a little bit further then, or back. I don't know, maybe now things are a little bit not synchronized, but anyways. Now you can see me build the fencing for the Mjolnir flat ride. And I really like this one, especially with this little wooden beam sticking out there on top. I really like this idea, and it looks great, I think. I will probably do that a lot more. English is hard, really hard, for other rides. And yeah, this really adds to the area, and everything looks a little bit more done now after I did this. So this whole area is coming together, and I find it quite interesting how the smallest things get everything together in the area and make it look like something and not look like shit, essentially. So yeah, so now we built the queue for Mjolnir. I dodged the queue for the Singlerail a long time, I see. And here again the pathing tool is screwing me up because I couldn't connect the path with the queue as I wanted. I had to adapt a little bit to that. And now again more wooden beams to top the wooden railing on top of the exit path here. And now we use, that is something I have to do a lot more, use different paths in the park. I think I only used 2 different paths as of it right now, maybe 3, and I don't know, I should change that for the future. And now you can see the special thing happened for the queue. That was kind of tricky, but in the end I think I got it right, because what I needed, what I'm building here is the baggage disposal thing. So you get into the coaster, one of the 2 in your row steps out for a short time, puts it in your color, then you go on the coaster and the thing turns around automatically. So your stuff is hidden away and no one can take it out, and when then the next coaster comes in, it is turned one more time and is again in a locked away area where no one can go. And when you come back in, it turns around one more time, and you get your baggage back on the other side. So you will see how it works, I guess, when it's done. Here I have to try to hide the colors on the bottom. And now we at the top, and I think we will add the fence quite soon. Okay, it needs to be able to turn, right? So we need something where it can turn on. And now, yes, we add the fence, and now then you will see actually how it works. Yeah, so you put it in the left side here, and I will probably build a fence so the yellow thing is, or did I build a fence? Yeah, I probably need to build a fence so the yellow thing is locked away too. I didn't actually realize, I forgot that. And then you put it in the left side of in this case on the red one. Then it turns behind the fence, it turns again behind the fence, and it turns and it is out of the fence. And that is your train, because the coaster is running 3 trains. And if the coaster would run only 2 trains because the park isn't busy enough or something like that, the staff has to turn the thing one time manually, one extra time. And this system I actually stole from Desert Race out of Heide Park. Again, one of my big references for this for Adventureplains. And I really like the system. It is quite small for this whole coaster. Normally there would be 2 or 3 of those, but I couldn't fit them in. And I think it gets the idea done, and I don't have to overdo it. So we'll take a little bit of suspension of disbelief here and just say that is enough for the whole coaster. And yeah. So here we are going for the gardening I called upon earlier. So it was quite a lot of time actually until here. And it's not the most beautiful thing I ever built regarding foliage and a queue area, but again it looks kind of modern and it works for the area, so I'm happy. I'm not quite sure of the trees I put in there. Maybe I will remove them. Same game again, like with the tree in the restaurant area and Copenhagen town area, because they look nice, but I'm not quite sure where they would have come from. So how can they grow there? Where are their roots and stuff like that? That is something I didn't really think about. And we are at the end, I see. So